Hello, chess friends, and welcome to that chess channel, and welcome to the Candidates Tournament in 2020-2021. Today's derby of the day, the derby of the round 12, is of course the super match between Fabiano Caruana and Anish Giri. These two guys are the followers of Jan Nepomniachtchi. Caruana has the whole point less than Jan Nepomniachtchi. Anish Giri has only half of the point less than Jan Nepomniachtchi. But still, if the point count is the same, if Nepo and Anish Giri have the same point count, still Nepo is better because of some additional criteria, because Nepo won one game against Anish Giri in the first round, so that's why here the tiebreaks are simply in Jan Nepomniachtchi's favor. So let's check out now the game. It was a brilliant game. I like this kind of games. Be prepared, this will be a monstrous strategical battle. So e4 here played by Fabiano Caruana. We have c5 by Anish, knight to f3, we have e6, the French variation of the Sicilian, we have d4, c takes d4, knight to d4, and now Anish goes with the move knight to f6, knight to c3, and now knight to c6, a3, preventing some ideas of bishop to b4, then to capture the knight on e4. In the game, bishop to e7 played by Anish, normal ideas. Also bishop to c5 would be an opportunity, but here Anish goes into a more close line. We have now bishop to e3, and now castling, bishop to e2, and now d6 played by Anish Giri. And there is an immediate way maybe to simplify the position with the move d5. The d5 equalizes the game immediately for black, but I like more now this variation of Anish Giri with the move d6. It's not, again, maybe the best suggested move by the engine, but here I think Anish Giri shows already that he simply wants to win. He wants to win, he wants to be the candidate winner, he wants to face Magnus Carlsen. Anish Giri played so far the best second part of the tournament. With the move d6, he's going into Najdorf structures, and we have seen recently that the Najdorf structures sometimes are not working so much in black's favor. Many players got crushed in these types of structures. Of course, with the move a6, we'll have really this Najdorf structure. But here, after move d6, Fabiano Caruana plays now a line that I'm not seeing another line like this in the database, so maybe it's a theoretical novelty, maybe it's something that Fabiano Caruana has prepared at home. Queen to d3, but it's the same, it's not a problem. Queen to d2, queen to d3, it's simply, I think, part of your style. So here in the game, bishop to d7 played by Anish. We have f4, great move here by Fabiano Caruana. So you see Fabi wants also to win the game, maybe try to really catch somehow Jan Nepomniachtchi, although he has the whole point behind Nepo. Here with the f4, the game becomes really wild and dynamic. In the game, we have e5 by Anish. Great move, it's a simplifying move. If you take, of course, then you get the centralized knight. Here knight to e5 could happen, and it's really hard to kick away this knight from this centralized square, because you don't have any more your f pawn, you don't have also the d pawn, so you couldn't kick away this knight from this outpost. You would need another piece maybe to further challenge the knight on e4. So here after move e5, Fabiano Caruana goes now into a very complex line, knight to c6. What he's trying to do is create further weaknesses in black's position. Here after b takes c6, what we can notice many times in the Najdorf Sicilian or Najdorf Sicilian structures or these types of structures is that the weakness is the d6 backward pawn. I had my trouble many times when I played as black. Similar ideas. I couldn't defend sometimes the position around the square d6, simply losing a pawn and then losing a game. It's really wild. Sometimes chess is played simply like this: lose one pawn, lose the game. Here d6 is now a serious positional problem for black. But you see now how great Anish Giri will solve these problems. First, he plays after castling e takes f4. We have bishop to f4, and it seems so that really something went wrong here, because the d6 pawn is hanging, but Anish plays first to move bishop to e6. Also knight to g4 is here an opportunity, but leads now into complicated line after bishop to d6, queen to b6. Here if after king to h1, bishop takes d6, and now after queen to d6. The problem here for black in this particular scenario is that you cannot actually play this move knight to f2. Would love to do that, but now after rook to f2, let's see, rook takes f2, queen takes f2, the bishop is protected, and now we could take out this bishop. So black would be forced here first to play and move rook from a to d8 or rook from f to d8, but still it's an equal game, I think, for black, because black has also a great counterattack possibility here around the square b2. So after move bishop to f4, as we said, bishop to e6 played by Anish, queen to g3, attacking further the d6 weakness. Still Anish Giri has always this tactic, queen to b6 followed with queen takes b2, so it's not so easy immediately for white to take out the d6 pawn to attack further this pawn, because you have to get first your king out of the range. So here in the game, knight to d7 played by Anish Giri. Again, if you try bishop takes d6, then queen to b6, then we can take out again, and then we can take out this pawn. So it's something that bothers now white in the continuation of the game. So after the move knight to d7, we have first to move rook to d1, rook to e8 here by Anish. Still he leaves this position unprotected around the square d6. He doesn't care immediately for this pawn, still with some counterattack opportunities. And now finally Fabiano Caruana goes with to move king to h1, getting out of this potential queen to b6 attack. And now queen to b8 played by Anish Giri. He defends first this pawn, but also plays this very important counterattack here around the square b2. So here b4, Caruana improves of course his backward pawn on b2. Now the pawn is protected, but now Anish finds this move, knight to e5, and he has now cemented this knight. As we said in the beginning of the video, knight to e5 is a great idea to cement really your knight around this square, because you don't have any more pawns in order to attack the knight. If you trade off simply the bishop for a knight, it's not so good. It could be an open game with the bishop pair. Black would be much better than even trying maybe to break the position with move a5. So taking out here is not an option, and you see now how Anish Giri defended this position, fixed really his position around the square e5. So here b5. Fabiano is trying to break the position now on the queen side. We have rook to c8. Look how Anish now activates all of his pieces. Still his d6 is protected. We have the b takes c6, and now rook to c6, knight to d5, and we have reached now a position in which black, it's obvious that has this bad bishop on e7. So the bishop on e7 is bad because it's blocked out by its own pawn. The problem is now this knight is very good here on d5, and I'm not sure if black cares about this bishop on e7 anymore, because here Anish played simply queen to f8. If you take now, let's see this possible continuation. If you give up your powerful centralized knight for the bishop on e7, I don't think it's so good, because queen to e7, maybe you can take out this one, bishop takes e5, d takes e5, queen to e5, but now you lose also this pawn. So with the activity of the rooks here on the c file, but also a potential activity on the b file, black could always have good counterplays, although maybe losing the centralized pawn on e5. So in the continuation of the game, that's why Caruana improved his backward pawn. Now the pawn is protected, and from this point on you see now a great bad bishop strategy by Anish Giri. What I mean about the bad bishop strategy, here it's obvious that Anish has the bad bishop situation, because his bishop is blocked out by its own pawn, but Anish will play now a reversed idea. He's trying now to Fabiano Caruana to have here this bad bishop situation, because he wants to lock now this bishop on e2. Look how he did it, because here he played first rook to c8. Now he's threatening something like bishop takes d5 followed with rook takes c3. So in the continuation, rook to c1, and now knight to g6, because the rook has now left the defense of the attack on the d file. The knight also stands in the way. So basically Anish Giri has found a great way how to defend his d6. It's still a long-term weakness, but now at least the battle is not so much around the square d6. Now it's all about the c file, which I think Anish Giri has occupied very well. So in the continuation, bishop to d2, we have bishop to h4, and from this point on Anish Giri is taking over. Anish plays now really top accurate, top engine moves, bishop to h4, queen to e3, and now rook to c5, attacking further the knight. We have c4, and this move is really sort of a positional weakness. We have talked about this bad bishop ideas. Now you see there are two pawns on light squares. This bishop on e2 is not good. It's simply blocked out by its own pawn, and here you see now how Anish will get use of these ideas. He'll play h6. What he's trying to do is now give up his little bit bad bishop. We have said the bishop on e7 wasn't so good. What he's trying to do is trade off this bishop on h4 for this one, then trade off the bishop for a knight, after potential e takes d5 or c takes d5. Okay, c takes d5 is not a possibility immediately, but after e takes d5, then black could have a knight versus bishop middle game, where the knight would be much better after potential knight outpost on f4 or on e5, because we have said if the knight gets cemented around e5, it cannot be kicked away by any pawns here. So let's go back. The main positional trades of pieces are here now: bishop to g5, trading off the dark square bishops, trading off the bishop for a knight, and then cement the knight on one of these dark squares, maybe on e4, and then e5 or on f4, where the knight couldn't be kicked away by the bishop. So great strategy here. Queen to b3. Now comes this idea: see, bishop to g5, trading off first the dark square bishop, queen to g3, queen to d8, of course, first protecting the pawn g5, protecting the pawn on d6, rook to d1, and now Anish takes. Here you see, after e takes d5, we have now two weaknesses here: the backward pawn on c4, but also a weak square here on f4 and a weak square on e5. So I hope you realize that the knight is much better here, because after a potential knight outpost on f4 and e5, the knight cannot be kicked away further by any minor piece. Great position trade of pieces here by Anish. We have knight to f4, queen to f2, rook to c7 by Anish. We have rook to d4, and now Anish plays queen to e8, simply attacks the bishop to f3, and now when the bishop has left the defense of the c4, here Anish simply takes the backward pawn, but here Caruana has also the opportunity to take out the pawn on a7, and we have reached now really the critical moment of the game. This is really wild. Anish Giri plays the move rook to a4, and maybe you can pause the video and find the best next move that at least equalizes somehow here the position for white, because black is much better because of this powerful knight on f4. Pause the video and try to see now the only move that's good for black. It's really wild what Fabiano Caruana missed here. Okay, Fabiano Caruana played here the move queen to f2 and simply left the pawn on a3 hanging. That's not good. The only way to protect this position is to play queen to c7. Queen to c7 after something like queen to f8, then this rook could come into the game. If you take out the pawn, then h4, breaking a little bit the pawn structure here on the king side, and now the rook has to retreat, and now we could take out this pawn. We could go back, maybe occupy the 7th rank. Still, black is slightly better here, but at least Fabi would have found a way how to defend his position in the game. As we said, queen to f2, and Anish Giri simply takes the pawn, has now comfortable +2 position. It's I think in this top grandmaster level, it's a completely winning endgame here for black. So after rook takes a3, Fabi tried here this move h4 to break somehow this pawn that's of course protecting the knight, but Anish continues now really with this top engine moves. He plays simply queen to e5, centralizing the queen. This is now a great move. This is now I think the whole domination all over the board. The queen is centralized, the rook is very active, the knight is on a best square on the board, so it's a +2, as I said, position here for Anish. Here Fabi takes, h takes g5, maybe queen to b6, more accurate, at least threatening something. Then rook to a8 again would be a fourth line here for Anish Giri, but still it's a better position. In one particular moment we will trade off this pawns around the square g5, then the queen again will come on a new better square, so it's a completely better position for Anish. So after h takes g5, queen to g5, we have rook to e1. Here Fabiano Caruana is threatening some ideas on the back rank, so that's why Anish goes back. But now comes again a new critical moment and a new huge blunder here by Fabiano Caruana. Fabi plays the move bishop to e4, and here Anish Giri didn't react correctly immediately. He should have played here with the move f5 after g3, maybe a possible counterattack. Then black can go knight to h5. If you retreat, then you lose simply the bishop, the pawn on g3, pardon me. If you take out here or queen to f5, then you risk always this fork ideas. Here knight takes g3, knight takes f5, and similar stuff. If you take with the queen, then you lose the queen. So but in the continuation, Anish Giri had a different idea in mind. It's also great tactic. It's not the best of moves, but I like this move that Anish first played. Rook to a2, rook attacking the queen. If you take, then you lose too much material. Queen to h4, king to g1, then queen takes rook, and then you lose also the bishop. But of course, Fabi saw that he didn't play this particular line. After rook to a2, Fabi tried rook to b1, again threatening even some checkmate threats on the back rank. And now again Anish played a perpetual, went with the rook back. But now after move rook to e1, when everyone feared that Anish could go into threefold repetition and make a draw, here Anish shows really the best move again. Now f5, he found his tactic that's basically winning. Every other move that black can play, that white can play, simply bad. g3, we have analyzed knight to h5. Now Fabiano Caruana tried bishop to b1, and now comes a new stunner. Maybe you can pause the video and try to see now the best continuation here for Anish. It's an incredible move that Anish saw. It was, I think, one of these moves that shows how Anish has prepared now for this tournament, how Anish is also a great attacker. Recently we have missed this kind of games by Anish, but now he's playing differently. Pause the video, as I said, try to find the best continuation. It's a wild move here by Anish. He played here the move king to f7, because he uses now the whole board in order to attack the king. Now he can include the king through the h file. Here Fabiano Caruana tried to move rook to e3, some kind of a counter attack, but now Anish plays simply rook to h8. We have knight to king to g1, and now again a new monstrous move. Great tactic, great deflection motif here. Knight takes g2 by Anish Giri. In this position, Fabiano Caruana resigned. So whatever you do, if you take out the knight, you lose the rook, and it's simply lost game. So really brilliant stuff by Anish. I am really happy that he is playing so good. I don't want to favor anyone. Of course, if Nepo wins this candidate, if Anish wins this candidates, it will be deserved. I don't want to root for anyone, but I think Anish Giri is the role model for every chess player. He has been so many times criticized by the media, by some other players, for instance, by Hikaru Nakamura, for instance, Magnus Carlsen. They sometimes used to troll Anish Giri, and I think sometimes even didn't like it, because Anish is a great player and he deserves all of respect. Imagine now how he has prepared for this tournament. He has now won 3 games in this second part of the tournament. He is now maybe even the top favorite to win this one, because Anish Giri can play great positional chess, but in this second half of the tournament, I think we have seen that Anish Giri can play also some great tactical chess, and that's why he has now a combined strength, I think, and is, in my opinion, the favorite to win this one. Because in my opinion, I have watched also a little bit the game between Wang and Jan Nepomniachtchi. This game should end in a draw, so it means maybe Anish will have the same point count like Jan Nepomniachtchi, but the additional criteria is not in Anish Giri's favor. As we said, Jan Nepomniachtchi won the game, but still Anish Giri in the last round will play with the white pieces against Alexenko. I don't want to also underestimate a little bit Alexenko, but I think that's a game in which Anish Giri should make at least 1 point. So now it's also a little bit pressure against here for Jan Nepomniachtchi. Jan has also now to win some games in order to stay on the first place. So okay, I hope that you enjoyed this game. Again, congratulations here to Anish Giri. Really brilliant guy, brilliant player. It's really a joy to watch also sometimes him playing, him streaming. I think he's such a nice guy. I wish him all of the best in the tournament. Even if he doesn't win this tournament, I think he's the hero of the candidates, because he's fighting now to be the winner of this very important tournament, and to face then the world champion Magnus Carlsen. So okay, I hope that you enjoyed this game. Really brilliant attack by Anish. If you want to see some more games from this tournament, check out my coverage so far. Here are some other games that I've analyzed before, and if you want to see maybe the best chess games of all times, check out my other playlist, the best chess games of all time series. Here's also the link, and if you like this content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you soon with some more videos, and chess is the best, of course.